I said, I mentioned with Stitchin and some of the whole thing with the Anunnaki and some of the other science that's actually coming up is that's actually proving that we are actually we were, our DNA was engineered, and the whole slave mentality, et cetera, et cetera. Man, I tell you, that's getting it's pretty scary and pretty ruthless for them to do that. Now, but then coming back to this whole prime directive, we are here. We're 7 billion people. So obviously there is some rules as far as they haven't wiped out the whole, population. So I think that there must be some sort of either quarantine or some rules that we're literally not as, well, maybe it's more selective or whatever, but I just don't think it's in mass, at least, bottom line. So.
Well, I don't know. It kind of scares me from the standpoint, we're talking about people gone missing. Again, in, the 411 book, that, the amount of people missing in national forests, like from 1900 to going back maybe 5 years ago, was over 14,000. Now, I can't believe 14,000 people would go into a national forest, right, and disappear. There's going to be some of them are going to fall off a cliff. Some of them are going to get shot maybe from hunters, or, drown, or, things like that, but not 14,000. And so the way they found bones and weird things, it's strange stories about it. But then if you start looking at the missing people, like, hey, hon, I'm going to the grocery store. And it never shows up, never comes home, disappeared. Or the wife goes out. Yeah, there's serial killers out there, but it can't be as many as the amount of people missing. And, a lot of people don't even get reported missing because the way that, the laws are, that it just makes me wonder, where some of these people are going. Again, some of these pictures of the mutilations I've seen, in South America, all Amazon area, it scares me. The same thing, same position, same type of thing that has happened with the cattle, only with humans. And, and it's always strange, though, why they leave the remains there. Is it to let us know they're doing it? But, I would think in the Amazon, or out in Brazil, a lot of the stuff, there's no way that they're going to be able to pack in laser equipment and to be able to do what is being done. I'm talking about, the military or the governments. I just think that it's strange things going on, and we're not being told about it because I don't know. Again, there could be species out there that are friendly towards man or don't want to get involved, but they don't want to see us, kill ourselves. But then it could be the other ones that they don't care. I mean, with the abductions, like Timothy Cullen got abducted. He's going to be on our show in November. He's been on it before. He's had an implant, which Dr. Roger Lear removed. And it was, sent to a lab, and it's no way it was formed on our world, the device or whatever it was. It just makes you wonder, that they've been doing these abductions for so many years. If they're just studying humans, they would know enough, more than the medical schools would know by now.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is they're actually harvesting. Their DNA harvesting is what they're doing. Just like and they're able to utilize that essence, and that's what I kind of figured out. Well, why don't they just there's a big claim as far as with the Eisenhower administration that they had created this had this agreement that they could get so many they could abduct so many people, they could harvest certain people, they weren't able to kill any of them, and they put them back in exchange for fiber optics and a bunch of other technology, et cetera, et cetera. Some people claim that all the microcomputer and all that was re-engineered out of Roswell and fiber optics, et cetera. I don't believe that they did that. I believe that actually there was an actual exchange that was done. It was an agreement, and I think it was kind of came down to what. They couldn't really do anything about it, so they had to make an agreement. But again, too, as far as order, and it always goes back to from even Churchill and Roosevelt. Churchill was really concerned. The Foo Fighters over the English Channel, they kept on seeing these discs and all kinds of things their pilots were just seeing over the channel. I mean, it was a common occurrence, and he was alarmed about the story getting out. And his statement was that people would stop going to church and stop paying tax and stop paying, stop adhering to the government rule, as far as that, if the information was out. So he was talking to Roosevelt, and there's actually correspondence going back as far as how to contain this stuff and how to contain the information. Well, we've had a whole history of containment ever since this started, especially in this country here. I mean, they've been trying to contain, and there's been roadblocks after roadblocks after roadblocks, and it's subterfuge, going back from the beginning, and now it's proven. It's proven, and so we know that there's something going on, and so you just utilize your imagination as far as exactly what, and unless you're there, standing in the room, how would you know? But it's just, you see this chain of causation, and then you put the piece together, and it becomes clear and more clear, or at least for me, anyways, as far as it's going. Plus my own experiences, plus my own pedigree and all this other stuff. I've been immersed in this stuff, not even particularly by choice. It just kind of happened. That thing, it kind of happened that way. I guess in some respect, as far as these channels for me, they've been open from a very young age, and they've been extraordinarily perplexing, and in many respects hard to live with, because we live in almost a pedestrian, I would call it sophomoric world, 3D world, and which does not allow for any of this super sensible world out there. As far as this, everyone treats a room as an empty vacuum. Well, again, science. There's no such thing as an empty room. There's all kinds of microorganisms, and there's no such thing as space. It's a huge deception. I mean, everything's filled up, as far as that. But we live in this strange world, and so, like maybe many of the listeners here, I would really try to adhere to kind of this whole, Judaic-Christian motif, trying to, hang on to it, but it was like always the same thing. It's like, oh God, this is just a waste of frickin' time. I mean, this is, and you get in this whole conundrum of, you start off with who's God's God, and why does God, why does God allow all this bad thing to happen? It's just says, the God in the Bible. It's like, what happened to him? And then you get in this whole thing. You start, why would this? Then you get in the lesser God theory, which is why is God jealous? God would have no reason to be jealous.
Why doesn't God ever die? How can it continue on forever? And what created him? I mean, it's just all these weird thoughts. When I was a little kid, Chad, my mom one time, I'd asked her questions when I was like 5, 6 years old. Well, who is God? What is God? And my mom would sit there and say, son, don't even think about it. Because if you think about it, you're going to go crazy, because there is absolutely no answer.
No. I guess, you have to, I guess you have to accept that you'll get that panoramic, or this, vision or vista, as far as what that is. And, but yeah, I mean, there are, the key thing is that I guess I personally adhered more to is that we're all part of this creation. We're actually all part of this God, which is a hard thing to accept, as far as this. But as far as the Santa Claus God is checking the list, checking it twice, want to see who's not here nice, that I killed that one off a long time ago. I've been disappointed at Christmas. However,
yeah, I have many of them. Now, have you when you were a young kid at the ranch and all that stuff, at the dome and all that stuff, did you ever see UFOs?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I still see them. I think I seen them quite often actually out there. I mean, I did experience abduction and time removal and things, attempted abductions also, all the way up to I was about 10 years old. So yeah, I actually did. And I actually had was abducted by the smaller grays outside of my grandmother's house, taken out of my bed in through a glass window, and the trajectory had taken me right through to the ship, and literally they had kind of pronged and stuck all kinds of things in me, and then the next thing I noticed, I was back in my bed, and I woke up, as far as that. But the next, the next day, telepathically, I remember them communicating with me, because they don't speak. I remember that I would not remember the experience, and that I'd be okay. What the physical experience I had was when I woke up, I continually stuttered. I could not keep a complete sentence. I didn't stutter before, so I stuttered and had a high fever. They actually took me to the doctor because they know what was wrong with me. So that was the whole cause and effect. And I know what happened, but I didn't know how to explain it. I was so young, didn't know how to explain it, and it's seared in my memory. It's very, very vivid. And up until and there's a reason for it too. Incidentally, as far as abduction goes, if you read any Dr. John Max there's all kinds of data information as far as what they think as far as actual abductions, and they're in the millions of people that have been abducted. There's the difference between people who know and are able to remember, and that's generally a kind of a freakish thing where a person is able to remember them. And that's why, when they do subconscious work as far as with hypnosis and things like that, and they can help people, regression therapy, they can help them remember them. But it's in the millions, and in fact, I think that between the the middle 50s and the 60s, which is my era, and I ran to so many people that have contacted me about being abducted and their whole experiences and time lapse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it will blow your mind. This is just since I've been out. People contact me, talk to me about their own experience. But they're in the millions. I mean, literally in the millions during that time period. And then it tapered off. I don't know what had happened after that. I mean, there were less and less, a lot different. I mean, there were some isolated instances, and primarily the primary target was young children. That was the primary target of all these abductions as far as children. There were other people, but the prime target was people up to age 6. And again, part of the reason that I'm able to remember, of course, your pineal gland gets calcified, and you don't, you just don't see the supersensible world. You don't see it, and you're not aware of it. So, up until, and especially after age 8, so people have a hard time. It's easier to forget. But my experience was vivid. The last one I had was they tried to snag me off my swing set, and I wouldn't go. They wanted me to release, and I guess I had the power, but I was literally vertical. And I knew that I had sensed that they were there. I couldn't see them. I sensed that my legs were up in the air, and I would not let go. I said, I'm not going. And then they finally let go and let me go. But there had been times where I'd literally end up, before that, I would be riding my tricycle in my backyard, and I'd be, they'd find me 3 or 4 miles away. One time I ended up in a high school in the middle of with a bunch of girls feeding me cake and what have you. They didn't know where I came from, and I literally had, they didn't know how I got there. And so I remember the cop. So I had all these things. An associate producer of mine, too, who contacted me, and I'm working with him, Jeff Crawford. He was talking about his experience out in 29 Palms. Which, he was out there, which is right next to this whole area. He had no knowledge of giant rock or any of the UFO thing. It was just and this up until this last year. And he came up missing for, I guess they had the whole Marine base, and they had all the cops and everything looking for him, and they couldn't find him. I guess he was gone for something like, I believe it was like 10 or 11 hours. And they finally found, finally popped up. So and I've had so many people, especially out there, talk about their experience of abduction